Hello, here we go, here we go. Hello. Make sure the microphone is close to your mouth. There we go. So, howdy, folks. Here we are, back for more coloring and finishing. We are working on our little guy here, and we're still painting him. So we need to be set with the hollow color or the solid brush, and we are using the brush. It's set at 6 pixels. We're going to enlarge the image so that it makes it easier for us to ink him. And we'll look at the previous colors to remind ourselves what colors we're using. On the face, of course, we're using a black line, which is going to be also on the hair and on the face. Not on all parts of the face, but, well, certain parts. The parts that you see. So I think I did I did do an example where I reused a color head, and I could do that. Let's see. Yeah, I actually could do it here, but I'm not going to. um, yeah, since I've started inking it, I'm just going to go ahead and finish it that way. Um, I'd like to point out something that you might all want to go see on YouTube, and I guess what I should probably do is maybe include a link in my description. But there was a TED Talk where someone from the studio, Leica studio in Portland, Oregon, did a TED Talk about how stop motion animation is being done today. And he talked about some of the films they did and how they used a 3D printer to make the heads, the replaceable heads for their film. It was really quite fascinating. So, if I can recall to put that link in the description, I will. If I can find it still, I may know, but it is on YouTube, and I was watching it actually this morning. It was quite good and inspiring. I bring it up because there's so much fear about AI taking over everything, and I personally feel that it could be for creatives, could be an awesome tool. And the reason why I say I think it could be an awesome tool is because it could save us a lot of time and effort, and it also could help us in a lot of ways. It could help us uh, do better business. It could help us to put our studios together and to have a business plan. It could help us to make certain decisions that we'd have to hire lawyers for and stuff. There's all sorts of things that an AI assistant could do for an independent, creative person that would save that person not only work but money, and also maybe even put them in a better place um, creatively. In my head, I'm thinking that particularly animation, because it's so labor intensive, seems like to me that AI might actually make it easier, or there's the possibility that it could be made easier using AI. So I always think that where most people make the mistake with new technology is they get the idea that somehow or another it's not a good thing, and it's just going to take away everybody's job. And I would say, well, it'll only take away your job if you're not thinking about how you can use AI better to do a better job. Maybe the problem isn't that AI can take over your job. Maybe the problem is that you're not seeing the potential of what AI can do for you. Maybe there's opportunity with AI that you're not taking into account. That's what I think. Um, and I've said this before that I believe that the people who are the smart people who will survive this are folks who will not see AI as an enemy, but see it as a possible help. The South Park guys, for instance, and I don't know this for a fact, but those guys, in my mind, are some of the smartest people I've ever seen in animation today. They've done beautifully from the time that they started to where they are today, and I have big time respect for them because they are smart enough to use everything at their disposal to get the job done better. Now, I don't know, but I'm just going to guess that I got to think those guys are using AI. I really have to think they are. um, how would they use it? I think the way that they would use it is I think that because they already have a lot of they have a lot of their they have all of their characters created. They have assets of all the characters that they've done, with the exception of anything new that they want to do. And what I'm amazed at about those guys is that what I would think they'd be doing is I would think they would probably um, use the AI to help them to make an entire show. By that I mean I think what I would imagine that they would do is I would imagine that they would use the AI to take all of the assets that they have. I'm copying and pasting this whole painted area here. There you go. Yeah, I would think they would use the AI to take all of the assets that they have and make a show. Because they've already got they've got every kind of movement on a Cartman I would think that they would ever need, or any of the other characters. So in my head, I'm thinking like, well, all they've really got to do then is, just all they'd have to do would be to use the assets they have and just, make a new show without even really having to make this bigger here. Without having to do anything really. I would. My guess is that I would expect that they could probably. Let's see here. They could probably make a whole brand new show without with their old characters without having to do anything new except prompt the AI to make the show based on whatever assets they have. So that's how I see that I see that the possibility of what AI could do. Now, and I mean, I don't know that they're doing it. I don't know that they're not doing it. But I would think that with all the assets that they have, it seems like to me they could do it. That makes sense to me. So it seems to me that anybody else could do the same thing. You could sit down. It would take you a little time, of course, to build assets of your characters. But I wouldn't be surprised if, if you could do this, what I'm talking about, and that I would think it would work. Seems like it would work. I don't know. I just see that I look at how people react to new technology, and it just seems like to me that in most cases people react rather irrationally. They jump to the conclusion that, oh well, this is a terrible thing and we don't want to do that, and let's let's find another solution and blah blah blah. And I don't know, it just seems to me that it's a little irrational the way I see it. I think there's opportunity that good could come out of it instead of bad. So Anyways, take that for whatever it is for you. I mean, everybody's gonna have a very different take about AI, and I can understand why people. Uh, I understand why people are afraid of it. I understand why people are talking against it. I get it, and I'm not saying that it's a great thing either. But what I am saying is that maybe we're overreacting here. Maybe there's something to be learned. Maybe, just maybe AI ain't so bad. And the reason that that's a good thing, the way I see it, is that, well, why not? Why not let AI help us, especially those of us who are independent producers anyway, help us to make something? Because you know it is time consuming, to make it the old-fashioned way. And if we can do something that will, you know, get rid of some of that work, take some of the work off of us so that we're not, killing ourselves. Why not? I mean, I think you're still going to have to go back and do things. I mean, you're still going to have to fix things. It's like where people make the big mistake, particularly um, where the companies are making a mistake, is they just think, oh, all we've got to do is tell the AI to make this kind of show, and it'll just make it. In other words, it's the old thing. It's like, oh well, we don't need artists. We got this AI. It'll do it for us. Blah blah blah. Well, you know, they're missing the point. Their right brain, or I'm sorry, left. What is it? Right brain thinking or left brain? Well, they're not artists. Okay, so they don't think like we do. So it would be natural for them to come to the conclusion that the only way to that you don't need artists when you have something like AI that will do this amazing stuff and it looks beautiful and everybody likes it and blah blah blah. And it's like, well, that's an oversimplification of what art is. Art isn't just something that you can dial up, and just say, oh, okay, well, that's art and everybody's going to love it. I don't think so. But I do think that it could save you some time and money if it's used the right way. So that's what I'm saying. And I would just say that artists shouldn't be afraid of it. Just look at it as another thing that you could use that could maybe help you do your job more efficiently, save you some work and money, and also not only that, perhaps give you some freedom to do something a lot more ambitious that maybe you wouldn't have been able to do without AI's help. But, I think we just have to, first of all, put our fears aside about it and look and see what it can do. Yeah, so that's my take on it. Because I see the benefits of what I believe all the things that AI can do. I think could be quite helpful. Um, yeah, because and also it's really the quality of what you make. It's not even about how fast you could make something or whether AI could do this or that and make a better looking thing. I think it's already kind of been proven that AI can make something that looks beautiful. But we're not just making pretty images here. We're making stories. If it was so easy that a machine could replace anything, well, then we wouldn't need people now, would we? We wouldn't need, you know, the computer would just do everything, right? But a computer doesn't have life experience. A computer, um, it it's a computer, and it there's things it'll do, and no doubt imitate. I certainly would agree from what I've seen that there's a lot of things that the AI can do that are quite remarkable. So, I'm going to give the AI credit where credit is due. I will definitely say that it's a pretty amazing tool, and it is, in my opinion, it is an amazing tool. But it's a tool. That's how I see it. I don't see it as it's not a person. It's a tool, and it does a job, and it does that job very well. So nothing wrong with that. I mean, isn't that why you invent a tool? You invent the tool so that it'll do a job effectively, right? I guess. So, anyways, so there you go. Yeah, no, I mean, and I'm gonna play with it. I'm talking about something that I'm gonna do myself. I have tinkered with AI just a little bit, but I could definitely tell that there's a lot of advantages to having AI and to using it, and I can see how it could be very, in the hands of a creative person, I can see how it could be very, very helpful and save you a lot of time and money. So I got to think that by itself that's got to be a good thing. Saving yourself time and money is that would be good, right? Sounds good to me. So I think so. So anyway, as you can see, I did some head copying there. I'm going to do this again. Let's see. What do I want to do here? Oh, no, I got it. No, this one I got to trace because this is new. All right, so let's blow this one up. All right. So, all right. Yeah, it does make the... Yeah, see, like, for instance, even something like this. Let's say I had animated this character a few different ways, and I had some stock footage that I could reuse on other projects. I don't know that the AI would be able to overly modify things that I've already drawn, but then again, I don't know that it might not. It might be able to. So that's where I say that, the time that you would want to take to create your own assets, that's where I say that it could be very helpful. Because like with the South Park guys, what they've done with all of their characters is they've got assets of all their characters, which I gotta think, I would think an AI could just pull from that. And I don't see why they couldn't just make an entire, not just one show, but a whole season of shows. Now they'd have to, for any new stuff, they'd have to create that. But considering how fast those guys are able to, they turn the show out in a week. That's amazing by itself. So they've come up, they've been doing that before AI even existed. So I got to kind of think if anybody's going to use it to best effect, I got to think the South Park guys are going to be the ones. And I'm sure they got to be using it. They're just too smart. I keep giving them a lot of credit because they've proven that they're cutting edge, man. They think outside the box. It's no it's no mistake that these guys are at the top of their game. It's no mistake that these guys have the second longest running animated show next to The Simpsons. There were other cartoon studios out there doing stuff way before the South Park guys came along, and look at how well they have worked the system to their advantage. And it's been primarily because they've thought about how they want to do what they're doing in a way that made sense based on the animation, how animation's done. Like everybody else does animation in the most expensive way they can, except these guys. When they started out, their first animation of South Park was that little Christmas special thing that they did, which was hilarious. And I remember seeing it, um, when I was working at Warner Brothers at the time, and they had done this thing, and it was going around, and it was on tape, and they had done the whole thing, and I think it was done with cutouts because that's what it looked like it was being done with. That's what they did it with. But then when they went to start to do a show, an actual show on the air, when they, I guess, sold it, then they used a computer, but they still kept the cutout look, you know. And I just thought, man, that's freaking brilliant, man. These guys, because see, it automatically meant that they understood. Well, animation just takes a lot of time, man. It's like we don't want to try to do Disney level animation. We can never do that and turn a show out every week. And see, they are the only company that can turn out a complete show that quickly. But yeah, but of course they can because the look of the design of the show. It's a very simple. It's cutouts. Now, if you take that whole idea of cutouts and you computerize it, it's going to be even faster to do, and that's what they did. Brilliant. How smart is that? And they got the top running show. And not only that, these guys are able to make shows that cover material that's topical. They can do something about a particular subject or thing that's in the news right now. Nobody else can do that because it just takes too freaking long to make something. But these guys are like, hey, and they're taking they're taking advantage of that ability because their show is simply designed. See, there's the difference. If they were doing a show and it looked like, a Disney cartoon or something, well, you can't do that. It would take too long. But if you do it and it looks like it's cutout stuff, that you can do. And I know because I worked at Disney, and it's like, and I'm like all the rest of we're all like this. We like the really nice looking, um, you know, beautiful Disney characters and everything. We love that, of course. But to try to turn a show like that looks that good every week, it's not possible. No matter how many people you hire, it's just not feasible. There's no way you could get something like that done, in a week. But if it's South Park, if it's done and it looks like a cutout animation, and you're using computers to do that, that's just freaking smart. You got to give these guys a lot of credit for being smart enough to see that let's not kill ourselves. So they put more energy into the storytelling and what they're trying to say with the material. And like I said, I got to give those guys some serious props, man. That's just brilliant. Okay, well, we're getting a little closer to the end of this. You can see that I did do the occasional copying the head fully. And you can see right here, this last pose here, now that I got this head, then these remaining ones here, well, at least the next one anyway. So I could take this one and copy that one to do this one. But I think we're going to have to do something different on the next one. Yeah, he tilts his head down. But these last three, I think, are the same. Yeah, see, those are all the same. So I should be able to copy those heads pretty easily. Yeah, so. All right, folks. Okay, well, we'll stop here. It's 24 minutes. So, all right. Well, hey, hope you all had a great weekend and stuff. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll carry on. We don't have too many more drawings. It looks like we got about 4 more color drawings, and then we'll have this scene done. And then I believe we have one more scene to animate before we finish off this little chunk of scenes. So we've done 7 scenes. There's an 8th scene to be done. And then there's yet another scene right after that that's an amalgamation, which I may end up cutting it all together and showing it to you as a composite when it's all finished. The film won't be finished when I've done the 8th scene or the 9th scene. It's just there's a chunk here that I'm working on. All right, folks, have a good evening. I will see you tomorrow.